So we have an absolute boatload to talk about. Yo guys, what is going on? Jake Felzine here. Oh man, it feels so good to be in front of the camera again, filming, editing, the whole workflow. I missed it so much. Had a great little vacation, did a lot of shooting, but we're gonna talk about all of that stuff. We're gonna get all caught up. But first and foremost, of course, we are gonna talk about why y'all are here, the new camera, the Panasonic GH5s, which is what you are seeing right here, straight in front of me. And then I got the G9 doing a little bit of side action just because we have both cameras now. So we'll get caught up on all the details and all the extra crap, but first and foremost, let's talk Panasonic GH5s. Apologies ahead of time, my voice is still coming back, so I sound a little bit weird. I'm almost back to full strength on the voice, and apologies if I have to take a couple of cough breaks. But anyway, let's talk cameras. Moving forward, I'm gonna just call the camera the S, GH5S. I'm just gonna call it the S, and the G9 for the old camera. All right guys, so I've had the camera now for a little over 2 weeks, and I've been shooting like crazy with it, trying to figure it out because obviously I want to, you guys know me, do my little cinematic shorts, and I've got basically a baby little cinema camera, and I needed to figure it out. I needed to go through all of the learning process, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this camera had a pretty steep learning process coming from the G9, which is a really good camera, but I can't lie to you guys, the S is an amazing camera with so many features, and it has so many features that it's actually really easy to shoot yourself in the foot, pun intended, and not shoot as good as you would like. So I'm gonna talk about some gotchas that I found with this camera, but at the end of the day, overall, I am loving this camera, and the main reason why I upgraded to this is more client work is coming in the pipes, and just wanting to shoot more and more cinematic movie looking stuff. This camera is perfect for that, and you guys know how much I'm digging my little short films and my little cinematics. So that is why I decided to upgrade to this camera. At the end of this video, I'll talk about it a little bit, but spoiler alert, knowing who I am now and how I like to shoot, I would have just bought this camera in the first place. I wouldn't have even bothered with the G9. Don't get me wrong, I love the G9, and there's definitely some things that the G9 does better, but for my goals, my personal goals in life as a filmmaker and editor, the GH5s just has so many things that are so much better and just better for me personally. So let's dive on into it. So first and foremost, I want to talk about the gotchas. Now there's some things with this camera that I have found that were definitely a disappointment. My two big ones are, you gotta be careful with your noise. You can get noise in this camera just as easily as you can get noise in the G9, depending on how you shoot. So you gotta be careful, because while you have the dual native ISO, you got 2 ISO values to work with and can stray around each. Straying from those native ISO values definitely comes with some consequences. So we're gonna talk about noise first. Now that being said, big pro for the camera, the dual native ISOs, you can shoot this camera in much lower light. But I have found that there is definitely some noise issues if you don't expose properly and if you don't shoot correctly, especially when you're using Vlog, which is the main reason why you would buy this camera in the first place. So the first biggest, noisiest thing that I found is actually shooting Vlog in slow motion. If you want to use this camera for slow motion, guys, the S is an amazing camera for slow motion. It shoots great, crispy, 120 frames, 96 frames, all the way up to 240 frames, which doesn't look as good, but is still pretty good. The 120 frames looks really good, but if you don't shoot as close to those dual native ISOs as possible, you get a lot of noise in the slow motion because, again, I don't think that I have a faulty camera. I think it's just the physical limitations of micro four thirds and shooting with like a 2.8 lens. If you use a prime lens, which is what I used to shoot with the G9 all the time, you definitely get less noise. So stick as close to those ISO values as possible when using this camera. If you're using a standard picture profile like standard, Cine V, Cine D, any of the built-in color profiles that come with the S, you're going to want to shoot at ISO 400 and 2500. And if you're brave in the whole vlog world, you're going to want to shoot at ISO 800 and 5000 for the two different values for the native ISO in this camera. And it's going to give you the best dynamic range and the best result and minimize the noise as much as possible. So definitely look out for noise when you're starting off with this camera. It's gotten me in trouble quite a bit on this first week, and I've had to really learn where to stick those ISO values and maybe adjust things like my aperture, throw in an ND filter, and just really play around with my exposure a lot more than I ever would have done with the G9, just because I so often shot with prime lenses and could keep that ISO value really low on the G9 and just didn't run into a lot of noise unless shooting in slow motion, which is a lot of times what happens with the S as well. Now guys, let's talk about big gotcha number 2. Don't worry, the praises are coming. I love this camera, but we gotta get kind of the things that I've learned out of the way just so you guys are aware of them. First week in using this camera, one of the biggest frustrations I found is no internal body image stabilization. It's a huge bummer. I missed it like crazy. The image stabilization in the G9 is nothing short of extraordinary. It's fantastic. It's so good you can shoot handheld with prime lenses that have no stabilization and get really amazing results. So as a result, I've been shooting a ton with my 12 to 35 millimeter lens, which has built-in lens stabilization and definitely helps with those jitters, but still is not even nearly as good as the in-body image stabilization in the G9. So there's been a huge learning curve there running and gunning with this camera because I can't get away with murder like I used to be able to do with the G9, and that's definitely been a bummer. Now again, I did know that going in. That wasn't really a surprise. I knew that this was going to be a struggle. I just had to get used to it, and ultimately I understand why they took it out. This is supposed to be like a baby cinema camera. I understand completely, and I'm excited to get better with my stabilizer and really practice my stable shots a lot more than I ever did. Because with the G9, I could be so lazy and just run and gun like nobody's business, not care about anything in the world, and just go handheld until I was blue in the face and my footage looked completely smooth and buttery. It was awesome. So definitely another big thing to keep in mind. Again, this is a lineup of cameras that Panasonic offers where you have super photography centered in the G9, you've got super video centered in the S, and then you have just your basic GH5, which has a lot of the features of the S and also has that image stabilization. So I think really at the end of the day, if you're looking at these cameras, I probably would recommend the GH5 like to most people. But that being said, like video is my end goal, so it made sense to go with the S. And those were my two big sort of like, look out if you buy this camera, be aware you can get really noisy footage depending on how you shoot, and you can definitely struggle with that internal stabilization. Get stabilized lenses, get tripods, get stabilizers, and get ready to have to kind of help this camera along. Now, let's talk about the stuff that I love with this camera. First and foremost, the autofocus seems to be quite a bit better. With the G9, you guys noticed all the time, I mean, it was hunting constantly, and I've just found that the S, while it definitely is still a Panasonic camera and does hunt, seems to find my face, latches on, and just maybe it'll go out of focus for a little bit, but then it tends to just gradually move back to the face in a way that's very pleasing and certainly a major improvement from the G9, which constantly struggled with focus all the time when I used it. Second big thing that I'm loving about this camera is the color science. I don't know exactly what Panasonic has done, how they've tweaked it, but I am loving the colors coming out of the S way more than I ever loved the colors coming out of the G9. The G9 I thought looked really good. I didn't have a lot of complaints with the colors, but the S just has some really nice balance and just looks really natural, has a lot better of the skin tones. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I feel like my skin tones look a lot cleaner and better on the S than they do on the G9, and I've definitely been noticing that. Third big thing that I'm loving is the vlog. Again, like I mentioned, be careful how you shoot it. Get as close to those native ISOs all the time as possible when shooting vlog, because that'll minimize noise. But I am loving, guys, how cinematic vlog is. It's so flat, the dynamic range is so wide, and you have tons of room to work with in post because you can shoot in 10-bit 422 color with this camera, which is just amazing. With the G9, whether it was 24 frames or slow motion, I was shooting 8-bit the entire time, and I didn't realize just how much I was missing out on as an editor not using a camera that had a really good bit rate. It's tasty when I'm in there editing. I love it. But anyway, guys, that is all, at least for kind of the first 2 weeks, week of shooting with this camera. Things that I've noticed, things that I've been watching out for. I plan on doing more update videos for this camera simply because I'm so excited to talk about it and just kind of give you guys my continual thoughts with it. I never did a G9 review, and now that I have a camera where I can kind of compare, I probably should do a G9 review, because don't get me wrong, I love that camera. And if you are really into photography, but also want to make a YouTube channel, the G9 shoots a phenomenal picture and it shoots a phenomenal video. It just looks really good, and I definitely recommend it. Which brings me really quick again back to those three cameras. Really how they split out is just kind of what your style is. All three cameras offer really good options depending on what you want to do. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do most. Do you want to do video the most? Get the S. Do you want to do photos the most? Get the G9. Do you want to have kind of like the perfect middle child? I want to shoot great pictures and I want to shoot great video, but maybe I'm missing some of the video features and maybe I'm missing some of the photography features. Go with just the GH5. And that's what I love about Panasonic, guys. All of their cameras have a lot of overlap in their features. All can shoot 4K 60, all can do slow motion, and all of them can take pictures. I mean, the S only takes pictures that are 10 megapixel and the sensor is completely different, but I've found the pictures to, although only being 10 megapixels, look really good. And as someone who primarily wants to do YouTube but likes to post pictures for Instagram and shoot my thumbnails, the S is totally going to fulfill that. So that's kind of where I see that camera fitting in best. But anyway, guys, that is all I'm talking about for the S tonight. All in all, again, if I could do it over, I would have just bought this camera in the first place. I thought I was saving myself a couple $100 with the G9, and I thought I was getting a lot of the same features. But again, I've learned so much in the past year of shooting that I just realized I needed a better tool for what is coming up with what I want to do with this channel and just with me personally and my career in general, which is kind of a nice leading point into other news. So I'm also working on another gig, guys. I got another gig. It's been kind of a big, fun project. I did it for them last year. It's a soccer club that I sort of used to play for back in the day. It's kind of a volunteer gig. I think they might pay me a little bit. I just haven't been too stingy about it because I'm really passionate to kind of give back to my community and a club that I used to play for. And I did their video for their auction last year. I'm doing it again this year, and I'm really excited for that. So it's a lot going on right now. I'm trying to work, I'm trying to do YouTube, get back in the swing of things because I've been gone for a while, and then trying to do this video as well. So apologies if stuff gets crazy. I'm trying to kind of figure out a good routine and just really looking forward to that. And then finally, of course, guys, I am so unbelievably grateful that this channel did hit 1,000 subscribers. Thank you to all of you who have kind of joined this little community on the whole little Jake Felzine channel. I'm humbled. I'm humbled. You know, y'all are right here, and I'm just super excited that I hit that milestone. I haven't really been super public with this, but that was sort of my yearly goal, was to hit 1,000 subscribers. So the fact that it's only March and we've already achieved that just has me completely overwhelmed, super excited for what the rest of the year has to hold, and super pumped to keep making videos, guys, because quite frankly, I just love doing it. It's so much fun to me, and I just look forward every time I get the chance to pick up my camera and go shoot, get on my desk and edit footage. I just love it. And that being said, of course, you guys know me. I love making my little cinematic shorts. Now that I've kind of got the GH5s under my belt, I've got a script all ready to go. I'm getting some buddies to hopefully help me fill in as kind of actors. I'm really looking forward to making a really as high-end as possible little short film that will be released sort of as a thanks to everyone for 1,000 subs. And, you know, here's kind of just to being a creator and all of the really cool stuff around it. And I don't know, I don't want to give away too much, no spoilers, but just that's in the works, along with everything else that's going on. So super pumped to be working on that video, and I'll fill you guys in as I get closer and closer to having that done, because I'm just really excited for this one. I think it's going to be awesome, and it's been a ton of fun to kind of think through how I want it shot and everything up to this point. So anyway, guys, I am getting out of here. My voice is starting to go again. So great to see you all again and catch up with you. I mean, it's been a while, and I just love getting back on this grind. I'm so excited to kind of be feeling better again, back from travel, and just really looking forward to making more videos. So you guys all have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, whatever time it is, and I will catch you all in the next one. And don't forget, as always, that creativity comes from constraint. See you guys. All right, I gotta film this. So speaking of creativity coming from constraint, here's some bloopers. So as you guys can see, I've got the GH5 set up right here. I've got this makeshift blanket to try to mitigate sound that's coming from my voice. We've got our old crappy tripod with the awesome makeshift boom that just ran out of light. Perfect, gotta love it. We've got my makeshift microphone boom with the light. Let me get my backup light. Here. We're good to go. Got our makeshift boom and microphone, and then of course we have the second camera which has the rest of the blanket attached to it. So, you know, creativity from constraint. Okay.